I guess the last few kind of broad general questions before we get into our main discussion.
Yeah.
We might have touched on this well, actually, no, I don't think we did. But so going back to starting out, I find that anyone who kind of wants to have like a creative pursuit in life, kind of they inherently kind of have that drive. But one thing that I always noticed as someone who watches stuff, interviews with like directors and cinematographers and all that, that more often than not they'll be like, oh yeah, I was always interested in this, but there was like this one moment or this one movie I saw that was like, that's what I want to do. This is this is the direction I'm going to take my life in. Do you have a moment like that, or a movie that like really made you think, oh man, I can do that?
Oh man, I feel like there's a couple examples of this through my life. Like I feel like the hints were always there. You know, like I didn't necessarily pick up on them until I was like working as a photographer and starting to get into video, that I was like, oh my gosh, like I could actually make a movie. Like, whoa. Like it kind of hit me at one point. But throughout the years, like there are a bunch of films that I've seen that like really hit me like that. And I remember one of them as a kid was Flight of the Navigator.
I don't think I'm familiar with that one. What's that one?
It's kind of an odd one. It's basically this kid and his brother are they're everyday kids from the 70s, whatever. They're coming home from like middle school or something, and him and his brother are poking and jabbing at each other, you know, right? And then they see something in this ravine or whatever, and they I forget exactly what happens, but they kind of like, they were giving each other some trouble beforehand. So like, you know, they're brothers and they love each other, but they're like kind of being mean to each other. They're bullying each other a little bit.
Right.
And the one kid basically falls down this ravine and gets like picked up by an alien spacecraft. The spacecraft takes him like super far into the future, and you know, he goes to, I think it's like 20 years in the future or something like that. And he comes back to his like family home, and he tries to find his parents, and he's like what's going on? Like, oh, they've moved away, like they aren't there anymore. And like his brother's gone and all this stuff, and then he gets back on the ship, and it's like this trip through his history, like what life would have been like without him there. And then it takes him back in time, you know, brings him back and all that stuff. And it's just this like heartwarming, like family
like
story.
Futuristic, It's a Wonderful Life kind of.
Yeah, yeah. But like the ship, the Navigator, it was almost like a Muppet character, because it had this like talking periscope sort of thing. And just the way that they shot the movie was basically like this puppet and a kid talking to each other in front of a screen. So like they made it kind of obvious that it was like, you know, this is like a green screen or something like that, because it was like the display of the ship. So you could tell it wasn't like a TV screen. They didn't have flat screens like that back then when they made that movie. But there was just some quality to it that was like, wow, this actually isn't that hard to do. It's just like they have a really good script, they have a cool like setting that they made, and this, you know, this awesome storyline and this way to portray it. So it's like, if you can get those ingredients together, wait, maybe this is possible. And like as a kid, it really started to get interesting for me then. Growing up, I started to get into odd directors and stuff like that, like Darren Aronofsky.
We've talked about him before a little bit.
Yeah, it's something about him is just, I find super inspiring. Like the way that he, like Pi, was very interesting to me. Like the first time I saw it, I was probably in high school, and it just like kind of creeped me out, and yet made me want to watch it more to try and figure out why it did that to me, because I couldn't figure out, like, it's not like a scary movie.
No, it's just like weirdly unsettling, like the way they shoot it and the way like everything's delivered. It's just he always turns out like a really fascinating product. At the very least, you can say that every single thing he does is so wonderfully unique.
Oh geez, yeah, like Requiem for a Dream, like that fridge. Ooh.
That was a nice timed water sip. But we talked about Mother in the second episode. I think that's easily one of my favorite of his.
That's a wild one. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. I think I have the idea of what's going on in my head, and I feel like there's, like, he just leaves things open enough to interpretation where, like, every time you watch a film of his, you're gonna kind of pick up on something different,
Right, yeah.
or get something like a little bit of a different interpretation. Like The Fountain is really good for that.
Yeah, definitely. It's like all of his movies are like it. I forget, one of my guests said it better than I could, but it was it desires to be understood at like the first time watching it, but the more you go back to it, the more rewarding it is.
Yeah,
I really love movies like that.
There's a whole bunch of classics like that. Like Donnie Darko is the same sort of way for me. Like I keep watching it and I'm like, oh, this makes me feel a little bit different this time. It's wonderful having movies like that throughout your life that make you question why you feel the way you feel when you're seeing certain things. It's great.